So one of the goals of our optimization work, and especially the account structure, was to make sure that we spend our budget on the products that will be performing the best, and to make sure that we take away spend from products that are performing less or that are less valuable to our business. So custom labels will help you do a better job of that. So if we take a look at our optimization pyramid, we are right at that foundational level again. We're working in the account structure. So these custom labels will help you to improve the account structure to make sure that you're showing the most valuable products. So by default in Google Shopping, you can set a specific CPC for a brand or a category, or even on your on the item level. But we want to do more interesting things, like you want to bid higher depending on the price of a product or depending on the margin you have on certain products. And you're unable to do that by default. You might know it and go into the campaigns and make the settings, keeping all of the extra information about the price point or about the margin in the back of your mind. But if you have a lot of products, it will get pretty messy pretty quickly. So what is a custom label and how can it help you? Well, a custom label simply is an extra field in your product feed which adds a little bit of extra information about your product. So in AdWords there are 5 different custom labels, and these 5 labels, they are different groups of information that you can add to your product feeds. So this sounds a little bit abstract, so let me show you what is possible. So for example, you could add your margin to your product feed via those custom labels. Because the bigger your margin is, the more you can afford to spend for a sale. Or you could add the price, because in absolute numbers, you'll make a lot more profit on higher priced items. Or maybe you want to add the seasonality to make sure that you push the products when people are most likely to buy them. Or you push the products that are more likely to sell, your most popular products, for example. Or you create your own metric. This could be as simple as dividing all your products up to, is it interesting? Yes. Is this product not interesting? No. It could be as simple as that. So how do you go about doing this? Well, the first part is to figure out which custom labels you need, or if you really need any. Second part is to divide your products using this business logic. The third part is adding those custom labels back into the feed. And the fourth step is organizing your account structure based on those custom labels, putting that business logic back into your campaigns. So the first step, which custom labels do you need? It's tough because it's not going to be straightforward. There's no straightforward rules for all products in all markets and all businesses. But here are some questions. So for example, for margin, are the margins between your products very different? Do they vary based on brand or category? Do you have a widely varying price points of your products? Do you sell, for example, products at $10 and others at over $1,000? How about the seasonality? How seasonal are your products? Do you have products that sell well year round? Or do you have a couple that don't sell anything but only sell during specific months? Or are some of your products more popular than others? This is true for most stores. You will always have a set of bestsellers. So you want to make sure, if your budget is limited, that you're putting money behind the products that will sell best. So when I share this possibility with a lot of new advertisers or even clients that have been going at it for a while but didn't know about this, their mind usually starts spinning and think about all the possibilities. And they want to do everything. They want to do the margin and the price and then work in the seasonality and do their own thing. And or even like add their own metric. Because sometimes I have a great product, but it takes a while to resupply it, so I don't want to push it too hard, and immediately becomes super complex. So I would suggest to start small. Pick one of them, and then start working that into your feed and see how much improvement you can make based on this, and then add in more of these custom labels. So again, the second step is to divide the products. So if we've decided on adding a custom label to our feed, we now have to start organizing it a little bit. And the first step, I always start with like putting it into a spreadsheet, because it gives you a good overview of planning how you want to organize it. So consider this like a very small store with a very small selection, with the brand, category, the product name, price. And then I've added here 2 columns that we will be adding as custom labels. One has margin and the other seasonality. So in practice, this could be custom label 0 and this could be custom label 1. And you can see that the actual value of that custom label can change. And I've made a distinction here between products that have less than 20% margin, between 20 and 30, between 30 and 35, and 35 plus. So these are some fictional values. 20%, that's not a lot, but just to show you what you want to fill in. So I always like to work with brackets. So rather than the actual margin here, I like to work with brackets, because the exact number isn't that important. So to me it's not important if this is like 10 or 15. I know if it's less than 20, probably it's not gonna be that important to me. But here also, I know if it's above 35, it's fine for me. So that's why I created these brackets. Otherwise, it's not gonna help you with the organizing of your account. So probably you might wanna have like a campaign based on everything that's performing less than 20%, or that maybe you wanna exclude them. Or maybe you have a campaign that targets everything that has a 35 plus margin. So it's not important if it's 35 or 33 or 37 or 38.5. It's just like a general, to get a general idea. Afterwards, like I said, like start simple, and afterwards, if you find that you need more granular results or granular organization, you can do it. Same for seasonality. So right now I've come up with like 2 important periods to me: spring and end of year. And then I have for some products that sell well both in spring and end of year. So I combine them like this. And you also see that for some products I don't have any value for the custom label. And that's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to provide values for all of the products, but know that these will be left out. So how to get started with it is I usually do an export of my products, and then I do like a pivot table to separate like brand and category. So you have like for the brand and the category, you have like unique values, and then you fill in these rather than on the product level, because that can get too detailed. So this is, for example, something I did with a client of mine. So I took a product export and edited that spreadsheet a little bit until I had like a brand and a category, which are unique for every brand. And then we had 2 custom labels: margin and seasonality. And then I just went through with the client. He was saying like, okay, this brand is average for all categories, and this brand is selling from this period to this period for this category, but then for other categories it's selling better in a different season, etc. So we went through the whole list, and it's quite a big list because I have a lot of brands, but this really made the campaigns a lot smarter. So I would suggest you go through an exercise like this. When you're finished dividing up your products and adding that extra information in those extra columns to it, you want to make sure that you get that information back into your product feed to make sure that you're actually able to use these custom labels in your campaigns. So there's 3 ways to do this. You can add them as extra fields in your e-commerce platform. This is free, but can be pretty labor intensive if you have a lot of products. You can use the feed rules in Google Merchant Center, which is a free extension, but you don't have that much flexibility. Or you can use a data feed management tool to create specific rules, which is pretty similar to the feed rules, but they're paid tools and they have a bit more flexibility. So which one you choose depends on how you've set up your product feed in the first place. If you went the manual route and you set it up with Google Sheets, well, then you will have more work cut out for you. But if you've already invested in a tool or some automation, your work will be a lot easier. So I'm now going to take you through all of these options. So if you're going to do it on your e-commerce platform, it really depends on your platform and how flexible it is. On Shopify, it's pretty easy. So here I'm in the sales channel /app for Shopify, and I have all my products, and I have here the option to just edit Google Shopping feeds. And this will take me to a special page of my product feed where I have the option to add like more information about those products. So you can see those custom labels, 0 through 4. So I said that I had like the first one, custom label 0, was talking about margin, so I'll do less than 20, and then the custom label 1 was dedicated to seasonality, so I'll do here end of year. So if I hit save here, it will add it to the product feed. It will get pushed to Merchant Center, and then in Google Shopping we will actually be able to use those custom labels. As I said, on Shopify this is pretty straightforward. In your shopping platform or shopping cart, there might not be this option to add these fields. So maybe you can easily create an extra field, or you have to get a developer involved, which might also cost some money. So I would suggest look through the other options as well before you start making changes to your platform. As you can also see, this is a pretty labor-intensive process to go through. For example, here I have about 200 products. I would need to go through them one by one and actually add this information. So I could take the spreadsheet and just copy paste, but it would take me a while. A second option, instead of adding it in your shopping cart platform, is to use the feed rules feature in Google Merchant Center. So here we are in Merchant Center. If I go to products, feeds, and then I click my feed for Shopify, this is called Content API. I can see here rules. So if you haven't used this feature before, you'll just see here default rule apply to everything. But what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new rule. So instead of adding it to that specific product, we're going to create a rule which will basically tell Google Merchant Center to add extra information to our feed. So we're going to do create rule, select here, custom label 0. Okay, so custom label 0. As I said, it's not super straightforward, but I'm just going to take you through it, how to set it up. I have another video in the course that talks more in detail to how you can use every piece of this feature, because it's really helpful. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this custom label to I'm going to set it to top for specific products, and then here those are the conditions. So right now this rule will always be applied. So right now if I just hit OK and then save, it's going to add top as a custom label to all products, but we don't want to do that. We only, for example, want to set it for products that have for example in their title, that have the word moon in the title. So we're doing the space poster. So here, moon, hit save. And then actually, if I hit save as a draft, that will add the rule. And here you can see this specific label. If I then do test changes, you can actually see the different results or the different changes that Google Merchant Center will make to your feed. But of course, you don't want to do this for an individual product. You'll probably want to have like multiple options here. So you could do a lot of different values here. You could, for example, do matches regular expression, and then put a set of brands here or a set of titles here. Or you could have like extra rules. You could check the title and make sure the price is higher than this. So you could do all sorts of things. So this is just one rule. We're setting the custom label to top. If we want to add more custom labels, so we had one top, we want to maybe set one to rest. We could do here again, edit source. If the custom label has no value, we're going to change that. If the title is, for example, Mars, then we're going to set it to rest. Set it to rest. Okay. Remove this one. Okay. And as you can see here, so we can go through a whole list. So if it's like moon, we set it to top. If it contains Mars, we set it to rest, etc. You can do this for individual products. You can do this for categories. You can get really creative, but the list will simply get a lot longer. So then we hit save as draft. I usually do test changes first, and then if those, you can see the results, and then you hit apply, and that will push the information to into Google Ads as well. The third option is to use a data feed management tool. So this is very similar to what we just saw in Google Merchant Center, but this is a paid tool. For example, here I'm using Channable, which is a tool that I use a lot. This is the feed for one of my clients. It works in a very similar way. I set a name. So here, for example, this is the custom label where we set products to a certain value if they're like one of the top sellers. So here we say if a brand matches the regex, and then we have a long list of brands, then take custom label 0 and set it to value top. So this is very similar to the feed rules, but I like this interface a lot better. It's a lot more intuitive. So then if I hit save rule, what it will do here is actually it will update, tell me 32% of the products were affected. So yeah, I do this to keep building lists and of rules, and you can add a lot more, of these rules as you go along. Then if we've added that information and those custom labels to the product feed, we're able to reorganize our account structure. And what does that mean? Well, we create new product groups, or create new ad groups, or create new campaigns based on the information in those custom labels. Let me show you how to do that. So we're here in a product group which had all products. And we've broken it down before into brands, but now we want to break it out into something different. So we're going to choose here, edit subdivision. So as you can see, it was broken out by brand, but we're going to go for custom label 0, because that's what where we've put like the margins of the products. So you can see here about 860 out of all of our products are top products with good margins. We have about 750 which have like okay average margins, and about 150 which aren't too great. So you can immediately see the breakdown of where we're trying to focus our spend. If you do like this and you then click save without editing, it will actually show all of those products in different ad groups. You then have the option to break out further. So this division was done on brand level. So then we're able to break out this top into the seasonality. So for example, let's say we want to break out all of these remaining products. Okay, so you can see first we have all products, and then we have those products focused on those time periods. I need to set the bidding, make the bidding, set the bidding to something else. We can even break them down further, but I think this is a good time to break it out by item ID. So maybe even brand and then item ID. So as you see, you can do a lot of things based on this. You can also create different campaigns based on this information. So like we did with the other preferences, we can do inventory filter, use a filter here, use custom label, and then just do it for the top products. So we would create a campaign that just has the top products. To close this lesson, I want to share a small case study of a client that I implemented this with. So on the left-hand side of this chart, you can see the 2 weeks before we implemented the custom labels, and on the right-hand side, the 2 weeks after the custom labels. This was a very similar amount of transactions, and you can see that actually the spend went up a little bit, but we made a lot more revenue in return. And what also is great is that we're actually focused on focusing the budget on higher margin items. So the revenue increased and the return on ad spend also increased, but the profit increased by a lot compared to the week before. And what we did is we created 3 different campaigns. So instead of having one shopping campaign, we created 3 different campaigns. We had one for the top products, which had about 75% of the client's total budget and high CPCs. Then we had one with the average products, which had about 20% of the budget, and those CPCs were a bit lower. And then we had one with the rest products, where we allocated 5% of the budget to, and we set that to really low CPCs. So we had like CPCs ranging there between 3 and 5 cents. So those would make sales and they would be super profitable, but we weren't willing to spend too much for this because we know the margins on those products weren't justifying spending a lot on ads. So I hope this case study and in this lesson gave you some ideas on how to start using these custom labels. There's a lot of possibilities with them. They offer a lot of flexibility to organize your campaigns, but yeah, it requires some thinking, some experimenting, some fresh ideas to really leverage this well.